I grew up and raised my family in Valverde, and my daughter started the VNA association back when COVID hit, and so, or she picked it back up. And so, yeah, having lived here or played here, or now being a community activist most of my life, this neighborhood is very near and dear to my heart. One particular memory that my parents and my husband so vividly described was there was torrential rains. They just came down in droves, and I remember them talking about like a house was moving, floating down, and then cattle, livestock, I guess from up Chatfield or whatever that big dam is before that was built. So there was a lot of debris and lots of like floating animals in the water, and so it was kind of like, it was just a shock to see that much movement so rapidly and so quickly without any warning. We were just devastated. Everybody was grief-stricken. It was just mud and just dirt, and just people didn't have anything. I remember my mom running to and fro trying to help community members getting blankets or whatever resources she could drum up. Of course, everybody else was looking for resources as well. I remember a lot of mud, and I remember my parents saying, "You kids stay away from that area, it's dangerous." And so, yeah, it was just one of those things where the memories will just never go away, and it stays with you. It haunts you to think that, you know, there was no warning. It was just, you know, a rapid fire, and it went on for like 3 days straight. Yeah, so I know there was not a lot of life lost, but the emotional, psychological impact of that flood will haunt me forever. So my mom was a community activist, and she was one of the 4 founding fathers of Servicios de la Raza. Her with Dr. Kluger and Ursula Garcia. They were it was a free clinic for Latinos, well, any nationality. And so she was really in tune with a lot of the community centers. And then back then we had Southwest Community Center. And so, yeah, she just reached out to stakeholders, allies, friends, family. We need blankets, we need food, because people were coming to her because they know she was such a resourceful person. And I remember my little sister saying, "Mom, why do we always have to help everybody?" And my mom, you know, she essentially said, "Because they look like they need a lot of help, honey." And so, you know, having to give away extra clothes or extra blankets or extra socks. I remember toiletries was a big deal. She was always putting toothbrushes or toothpaste in these little bags to hand out, and of course blankets. And so she was really boots on the ground, hands on, her and my dad. They were just, and my dad, he was walking around Denver trying to help everybody. So they were just wonderful, wonderful people, and they just cared so much about their community. And not only just the Valverde community, they went on to help other communities as well. But yeah, it was almost like seeing God's grace through them, and it penetrated my heart. And still today, you know, you can never outgive God. And I feel like that's my mission in life, is to try to give back as best I can. Well, this is a multicultural, multi-generational neighborhood because we have the Columbine housing, and so that's for people that are disabled. And so we have lots of different age groups. And so to answer that question, it's all about listening and putting yourselves in harm's way. Like sometimes I find myself in a situation where I'm explaining or trying to strike up a conversation about these issues, and people will, you know, abruptly shut me off. "Oh, that's not going to impact us. Oh, that's not important." But just that one touch, two touch, keep coming back and gently giving them nudges and explaining to them that we are living in a time where the weather patterns and the fires are going to keep coming. And so just, you know, looking at this person and trying to find a way, being creative, trying to explain what climate change is, and using gifts. When I ask people to come into my community, I ask them, bring lots of gifts, because they have been hurt and they have been wounded, and they've been I want to say, beaten and everything taken from them. And this is the oldest neighborhood in Denver. We don't have a grocery store. We don't have any kind of museum, cultural art. We don't have a library. You know, it's sad. And so, yeah, just using I call my toolbox. You know, some days I bring gifts. Some days I just sit and listen and say a quiet word, or someday I offer, you know, just a hug. So you have to use lots of different approaches with this type of a neighborhood. You can't come in and act like you know everything, and I certainly don't want to ever do that, because people's perspectives are different, and I'm realizing that. I used to tell people, oh, you know, you got to do this, and you got to recycle, and you got to ride your bike more, you know, and that didn't work. I fell flat on the ground. So now I just try to meet people where they are and listen, and I try to always provide like something fun, like, hey, we're planning a party this summer, or we just named Ulubari Park. It hadn't been named in 30 years. It was neglected and it didn't have an identity. And I did something about that. And Ulubari Park means new village, and that's what we're trying to build in Valverde. Well, I started working as a promotora for the park people 3 years ago, and I was all by myself, my husband and I was kind of feeling sorry for myself. But now I have like 10 people that they're so excited about planting trees in Valverde and building tree canopy, because we were redlined, so we never got the tree canopy that other neighborhoods have. And so people are getting excited, and when they see me, they're like, oh, there's Mama Evon. She's bringing good news, or bringing gifts, or she's, you know, sharing knowledge. So it's slow and it's really hard work. And some days I cry, but the joy when I see other neighbors getting involved and building that resilience, and even though we still find joy and happiness in each other. And so, yeah, the momentum is growing, and folks like you that help me bring awareness and tools to teach. So yeah, I'm really excited about the future. We're working on a few initiatives that I hope just keep getting better and better and drive that excitement and get more people involved. One of the things I'd like to be remembered for is having worked for the city 25 plus years, I worked very hard to tear down structural infrastructures that keep people out. And so part of that is having conversations and explaining myself as a Latina and a woman that, you know, this is wrong. You cannot have these systems that keep people out. And so one of the things I hope to do is provide education, provide prevention, and to provide ideas of how to, not one touch, two touch, three touch, but keep coming back until people feel supported. Maybe a helpline, a call center. Maybe people can come and have a day where we teach people how to fill out the FEMA paperwork to apply for the flood insurance. So just making sure people understand that this could happen, and not to scare people, but an ounce of prevention is a ton of cure. And so I want to bring a warm blanket so that if somebody says, hey, there's an alert, you know, they have their backpack, maybe with their medications and their glasses. Maybe they even have some snacks because they're diabetic, and maybe some precious pictures or things that they want to take with them, because once the flood comes, we have very little short time to get prepared. So just that that notion that, you know, it could happen, and what are we going to do about it? We're going to sit here and feel sorry for ourselves, or we're going to pull our sleeves up like we always do in Valverde, and we're going to get busy planning, preparing, and educating ourselves. When CASR first introduced the rapid assessments, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, you know, these things that they're talking about in regards to climate change could never happen. You know, my community, they care about, hey, how do I put food on my table because I'm a single parent. They're worried about, you know, how do I get gas? But it's happening. And so my hope, I have a deep spiritual faith in God, and I believe the things that we speak not as though they were come true. They might not come true today, they might not come true for a while, might not even come true in my lifetime, but our prayers go up like a fragrance, a beautiful fragrance, to our Lord thy God, and I believe he hears my prayers, and I believe in people, and I believe in partnering with community. It's a beautiful marriage. It's a slow, slow dance, and a lot of times we step on each other's toes. But I believe that when you give a hand up, like my parents did for so many people, it comes back. And that's not why we do it. We do it because we want to empower people. We want them to have what we have. And so that gives me hope and joy. And that's why I do what I do every day.